My God, it's so hard to watch these documentaries about Christianity or Christian cults. It's like watching your long-lost third cousins and be like, they did what? 19 kids? They physically abuse their babies? Kids molesting other kids? It's like they come from an alternate reality you don't want to believe exists. But there you go. It not only exists, but it actually has a very successful and popular TV show.
You've probably heard of the Duggar family.
Everyone knew who the family was.
A TV show, which by the way, sponsors a very toxic ministry called IBLP.
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 IBLP. We were part of IBLP as early as I can remember.
Which became experts in disseminating a toxic message. So successful indeed that reached people in Bolivia, where I grew up, and infected people that didn't know better but to believe its message and help disseminate the message to their congregations. Shiny Happy People is the #1 documentary today in Prime Video and stars the Duggar family and their hit TLC show called 19 and Counting. The Duggars, a very fundamentalist and conservative family who are the poster family of the IBLP.
If you have not gone through the basics seminar, I highly recommend it.
We have for every one of you the answer.
The Institute for Basic Life Principles, created and led by a very bizarre individual called Bill Gothard.
The answer.
Please let me know in the comments if you've actually seen this documentary. And as the video goes on, please let me know if I missed something important that you think I should have mentioned. Like many of you out there, I found this story very problematic and sickening. It is a hard watch, I have to admit. Because if you are a conservative or have been a conservative, I'm sure you've seen parts of yourself and your story being portrayed in this documentary. One of the things that really hit home and hit a soft spot in my heart in life with traumatic experiences is Bill Gothard's and the IBLP's emphasis on the authority placed by God.
The biggest feature of Bill Gothard's teachings is authority. Kids obey the parents, wives obey their husbands, everyone obeys Bill Gothard.
Gothard turned every father into a cult leader and every home into an island.
One major area in which God began to really work in my heart was in the area of submission. My husband had asked me not to wear pants, and I was out from under his authority again.
The potential for abuse that comes out of the emphasis on the authority placed by God. Bill Gothard and people akin to his ways of leadership, his ways of understanding the Bible, use two main passages in the New Testament as the cornerstones of their teachings. One is in Romans 13. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. This verse is not talking about pastoral authority. It's not talking about church authority. It's not talking about household authority. I can say the word authority. Authority. And here is where the other verse comes in. Hebrews 13:17. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls as those who will have to give an account.
Bill Gothard promised a guarantee for success for your family. If you follow his 7 principles, then your life will be a success. And if you don't, he said that your life would be one disaster after another.
He said like correlation and causation, these things play hand in hand. So he'd say you have to watch out, at every turn. And at the end of those stories, that is when he would have you make the vow to God to keep whatever teaching he had just made. And then he would say, make a vow to pray for 5 minutes. And then he'd say, you need to keep this vow. Otherwise, disaster is going to come to you.
I am more than sure that you've heard at least one sermon based on these passages. And so whenever there's been abuse or there's been mishandling of something at church, the mystery of the submission to the appointed authorities by God was always brought forward with arguments like this.
Every authority is put there by God himself. His very own hand put that person there. He put it there for you, thinking about you. I know that right now it doesn't make sense to submit to his authority. Just obey him and God will be able to bless you through your obedience.
And thus, many people, including me, feel or have felt the need to leave our brains at the door. Our intuition, our wisdom, and even the beckonings, the voice of the Holy Spirit saying, this is wrong. We are forced and encouraged to leave all of that at the door and trust the mystery. The mystery that it is and the blessing that comes through submitting to our leaders. And if that pastor is wrong, that man will have to give an account to God one day. And this perpetuates their abuse week after week, month after month, as we hold on fast and tight to the promise that one day these monsters will have to give an account to God of all the bad things they did. And in the process, we let ourselves, our kids, and our entire families be cornered and abused. There is no greater example of what it looks like to leave your brain at the door than the story of the Duggars family and Bill Gothard and the IBLP. Dear conservative American Christian adults, you had this self-proclaimed family guru called Bill Gothard,
the answer,
who was teaching you how to be a husband, how to treat and educate your wife, how to raise your kids, and even how to spank them, giving you a whole curriculum on how to homeschool your kids. Yet, and please hear this, Bill Gothard was not married. This maniac was not married and had no kids. Talking about leaving your brain at the door. We are talking about hundreds and thousands of adults. Adults. What the hell happened? So I've been intentionally using the pronouns he or him or his because in 99.999% of the cases, it is men who are the abusers. Male pastors who rule and lead very patriarchal and authoritarian churches where they like to keep their women silent. You know what's the number one, the most powerful weapon to get hundreds of people in families to leave their brains at the door? It's called fear.
If we allow a hole in our umbrella, Satan will come in and will attack our family.
Fear was a huge component of what they pushed through the seminar and through the materials.
Why should I not be put in hell to suffer for all time?
In IBLP, you're at high alert all the time, digging into everything, making sure you're not doing or thinking or feeling anything that's going to get you sent to hell. And hell was very vivid for us. It was not an abstract concept.
My dad told me if I ever speak, that I would be out from under the umbrella of protection and God would let me get in a car wreck and die. I got sick with like the flu or something. My mom looked at me and she said, so you're sick, so you must have done something to get sick. God is punishing you because you've gone out from under the umbrella of protection.
That hellish concept of the umbrellas of protection bullcrap has been used by many pastors, by hundreds of leaders to have entire families leave their brains at the door. Every parent wants to protect their spouse and their children. And if being under the authority of this man is going to protect my family from the devil's attack, then so help me God, my entire family is going to submit under this pastor, apostle, prophet, like our lives depended on it. Because if you don't remain under the umbrellas of protection, the devil is going to get your kids, your health, your economy, your healthy erections, everything. Apparently, the devil is very umbrella phobic. This is the number one reason why I've made so many videos talking about the devil, talking about hell. I'm trying to combat all of the fear mongering going around in so many churches and many YouTube channels. I will attach a link to a playlist that contains all of the videos talking about hell and devil, either on one of these corners or down in the description below. Christ is king. Do you think you need ever growing higher and higher stacks of umbrellas to protect yourself from the devil? Can somebody please show me the umbrellas of protection verses without manipulating the hell out of the Bible? Man, and don't even get me started with their ideas of the transferring of the authority from the father to the husband on the wedding day. My God, that was hard to watch, especially because this is very connected to household violence. But talking about bubbles, there were some Christian conservative YouTubers who were part of this documentary, and some were even interviewed as part of the docuseries, like Paul and Morgan. Oh, Paul and Morgan. This docuseries showed some of the not very smart things this individual said in past videos. Things like,
God did not make you gay. Does a thief come out born a thief? You can't be a they-them people. You can't. I'm sorry. Pick one or the other at least.
Isn't it interesting how you can come here and they just so boldly and confidently speak like, this is, the Bible is true, creation is true, the biblical account of creation, but then you can go to DC and go into the, what museum was that? Whatever the big museum in DC was, and it's like the polar opposite, where they're all talking about evolution billions of years old.
Billions.
We believe this.
They recently released a YouTube video sharing their comments and expressing their concerns as to how they were portrayed in this docuseries. Both of them said that to this day, they stand by what they said in those old videos, doubling down on things like evolution.
And we stand, like Morgan's already said, we stand by what we said in the documentary. We stand by God created man and woman. And even though they played that kind of, amen, that kind of goofy clip where I'm like talking kind of funny, we're at the Creation Museum.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, this is what we believe. I do believe that. I reject all of this evolution stuff that they have not found fossils for. I reject it. I believe in creation. I believe a biblical account. That's what I believe. And I'm not going to, apologize and shrink back and be like, oh, well, actually.
Come on, man. I don't know of one Christian theologian or biblical scholar who's respected by both conservatives or liberals who would dare repeat the words that just came out of your mouth. Paul, you should know better, especially if you have a Christian channel dedicated to teaching other Christians how to think biblically and theologically. You're smart. I've seen other videos from you, and I think I know where the problem lies. It's information. We can only work with the information we have and the information we choose to consume. It sounds like all of the information you consume comes from within your bubble. A bubble where whenever anybody mentions the word evolution, they do so with the intention of disproving it. I know those books. I know those authors. And I know everybody here knows what it is and how it feels to only consume things that come from within our bubbles. And thus we all know how quickly that becomes a confirmation bias fest. Friends, if most of the information you and I consume comes from only one camp, or from a very small select group of people, we gotta pause because we're very likely heading into dangerous terrain. I believe that's one of the reasons why Paul and Morgan got lumped into what they call the Joshua generation. A group who intentionally or unintentionally keep pushing forward Bill Gothard's teachings and agenda.
And that is the Joshua generation.
So, did you watch the documentary? Did I miss something important? If I did, please leave your comments down there. I would love to hear what you thought of it.